what happens when you eliminate that fear, the drive doesn't go away, the self-destruction does. And it allows you to keep stepping forward. It no longer becomes 2 steps forward, 3 steps back, but you're moving forward out of passion, purpose, and out of love. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Powerful Man Show. I am your host, Doug Holt, with my co-host, Tim Matthews. Tim, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing very well. Thank you, sir. How are you?
I'm doing excellent. I know you're traveling right now, enjoying the beautiful countryside, but we got some meat to get into today.
Yeah. Do you know what? We can just pause that a second. I just love that conviction that you had there. I'm doing excellent. Like there was not an ounce of doubt in your mind about how you felt. It was nice to hear.
Thank you. So let's rock and roll. I know you had a question to bring to the table. It's a question that comes up a lot with successful men that are looking at our program with the activation method. When they go through the process, to let a listener know, there is a program called the activation method, and it is a very intense program for men, business owners in particular, or at least executives and those on their way to that path. And during this process, we're very choosy on who we take in. And so they have to go through an application process to do so. So Tim, you were saying right before we hit record about a common question that comes up.
Yeah, it's even more than a question, it's a fear. And that fear is, if I become content and fulfilled with my life, will I still be driven? Now, to put that another way, a lot of the men we speak to, they have very much been driven by pain for most of their life, and they're afraid that if they overcome that and actually allow themselves to be pulled by their pleasure instead of being driven by pain, then they're going to lose their drive, and they're afraid. And that is a big holdup for a lot of the guys.
Yeah, this is so common. I'm glad you brought this topic up because, you hear this a lot, not only just from the men that come through our program, but from people in general, especially high achievers, right? They have taught themselves to drive themselves out of fear. And a common pattern that occurs here, and people listening to this, let me know if this strikes you as familiar, but what they'll do is they'll raise up to a certain level, right? They'll raise up to a certain bar, and then they'll what we call up leveling. They'll hit their upper limit, and then they start to have everything crash around them. They start to self-destruct, implode. They start ruining their relationships, their business, and they get back to rock bottom. Now, only when they hit rock bottom, right? Their back's against the wall, things are, horrible, et cetera, do they push through and build it back up again to kind of name themselves as the hero? Of course, they only get to a certain level again, and then they repeat this cycle, right? It seems like a common cycle that a lot of people go through, where they will get to a certain level of comfortability and all of a sudden XYZ happens. Of course, it's not their fault, right? Well, which we all know it is. And subconsciously, they self-destruct. And when their back's against the wall, though, then they make the phone calls. Then they're able to drive home. And that's due to fear, right? They're worried that if the pain gets released, right? The actual pain gets released, that they won't be able to rebuild the company. They won't be able to push forward in the relationships. They won't be able to break through the barrier. And the truth of it is, they haven't broken through the barrier with the pain, right? The pain is not the driving force. Now, they may have waited till they got their back against the wall. But what if, like you said, you said something very poignant here, be pulled by our dreams, right? Rather than pushed by our fear. And that's a very, very key distinction that you said. I recognize that right away. And being pulled by our dreams and our desires to drive us allows us to go to that next level. Allows us to raise the thermostat, so to speak, where we can actually achieve more. The fear is gone, right? Now we can actually be driven by our passion, by our excitement, by our joys. The truth is, we're always going to want to grow. We're always going to want to go to that next level. But the actual fear and pain is what's keeping us down. It is the crab in the pot, right? The crab in the pot story, where as you start to come up, all the other crabs, what do? They grab the crab that's trying to get out of that pot and they pull it right back down. That is your fear. And if you're trying to get out of the pot, eliminating that fear is going to allow you to elevate, not keep you down.
Wow. So well said. How much can you really be driven when you push by pain? Because ultimately, whenever you're pushed by pain, it never feels like enough, does it? You're always wanting to get that next thing. We talk about the men when they come into the program having a cycle of create, conquer, next, create, conquer, next. It's never ending. And as a result, like I said, no matter what you achieve, it never feels like enough. Therefore, you're constantly on the hamster wheel of hustle, and ultimately you burn out. So although a lot of the men think that it's actually a productive space for them to be in, it actually isn't that productive because it goes in waves and cycles, and ultimately it's never very long lasting, and also it's not fulfilling. It really isn't fulfilling. So what would you rather do? Would you rather take the risk that you're going to be content and fulfilled with your life, but you might have a different experience of your journey? You might experience your journey in a different way, or do you want to continue as you are and actually never really experience true contentment and fulfillment?
It's so true. I mean, think about motivating anybody, right? Motivating anybody. Let's just talk outside of people. If you're trying to motivate somebody, if you're motivating them out of fear, right? As soon as that fear right there, they're not going to be pushed or pulled by desire. And if you're motivating that person out of fear, they're not actually, really living life. They're always in the state of a dark cloud, chains, feeling bound, right? They're not enjoying the fruits of life, the things that, that we love. You and I always commonly say that, you're not practicing for life right now. You're living life. So don't act like this is your practice game here. This is game day. Every single day is game day for your life. And living it in fear and having that weigh you down, you're not going to enjoy it. So if anything, right, you want to enjoy life first and foremost. Second thing is you want that person, right? You want that person to be driven by purpose. You and I run businesses, we run companies, we go in, we consult at a very high level. When we see somebody who works for a company who's driven by fear, they only produce as much as necessary, period, right? Only enough not to be scared. Same thing with us, right? Now when we go into that same company, we see somebody who is driven by purpose, by passion. They go above and beyond. And as a business owner, that's what I look for, right? I want somebody on my team to constantly take that next step, what I call the and then some step, one step further. Now, tie this all in together. This all happens within inside of us as well. When we're driven by fear, we only go as far as fear will take us. We only go as far as to be safe. So the fear doesn't overcome us. The pain doesn't overcome us. When we're driven by purpose, by passion, by excitement, by the juices that really flow through life, we are able to do that and then some. And more importantly, we get to enjoy it.
Yeah, so true. So true. Because when you've got those juices of life, as you said so well, you're more energized, you're clearer, you're more focused, you've got more enjoyment in your life, you've got more fun in your life, it's happier, the journey's better. You naturally get up with a spring in your step. You're healthier. Stress. A lot of the men that we work with when we first start working with them, the stress levels are through the roof. They're overwhelmed. They're pulled in a million different directions. They can't sleep. They lie awake at night. It's crazy. It's a crazy, crazy, crazy pace of life that they're living with. And the truth is, if you actually looked at the question of, if I become content and fulfilled with my life, will I still be driven? Well, the reality is, and you said this at the beginning, Doug, for the most part, if you are listening to this podcast, if you're a business owner, an entrepreneur, a C-suite executive, then usually by default, you just love to grow. You love to grow in your area of your health. You love to grow personally, professionally. It's just who you are. So in terms of still being driven, yes, in my opinion, you are still going to be driven because it's just who you are. You don't have to have that driver of pain and fear of loss and fear of rejection behind you. Because when you actually shift it to allow yourself to be pulled by pleasure, your journey it takes a completely different meaning. And this is what we speak about when we talk about there being one destination and two paths. The first path is that, we call it the average way, don't we? Because it is average. It's easy. It's that path of hustle, of grind, of force, of sacrifice. And it's very easy to do. It doesn't it doesn't take, a rocket scientist, if you will, to go out there and hustle. It's very easy to hustle. But it's a different ball game when you choose to go onto the other path. And that's the path of flow and ease and abundance. And that is the path where you are content and fulfilled with your life, whilst also still being driven, pulled by your pleasure to experience even more of that love, joy, and abundance in your life. Oh. It's just a choice. It is a choice.
It is a choice. Gosh, we talked about this for so long, but that brought up a memory. And I remember being with you and someone asked you a question, Tim, this was about hustle, which is similar to fear, right? Sometimes hustle and fear can go hand in hand. The way hustle is talked about in popular business culture right now, it's a phenomenon. It's a new phenomenon, by the way, for people that are really into this whole, you got to hustle, grind it out, 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's being pushed right now on the internet. But somebody asked you, they said, Tim, how can I not hustle? How can I have flow and ease and also get a bunch of stuff done? And I'm going to paraphrase your response, and you come in and clean it up because I'm sure I'm going to mess this one up. But it struck me because I thought it was really profound. And you said, look, no. It doesn't mean you don't work hard. It doesn't mean you don't, bust your ass, essentially, the way that we used to think of that. But you do so with passion. You do so with flow and ease. And as soon as you said that, it really just snapped into my mind the flow state that we've all experienced, right? When you're in a state of flow, when you sit down and you're doing something you love, and you look up and you're like, it's been 15 minutes, and you're like, holy cow, it's been 2 hours. We've all been there, that flow state. And that's what I thought you were talking about there is, it's not hustle, you're getting things done. There's work to be done. But you're driven, you're being pulled by your purpose and by what you want to do, rather than pushed by my to-do list and all these things I have to do. It's a difference and a distinction between get to do and have to do. Get to do is by flow and ease, pushed by your dreams. Have to do is fear. You have to do it or something else.
Yeah, there's a consequence to your action. If you do not, then something bad will happen. And yeah, you're totally right. A lot of the men that I have worked with through the Powerful Man and that we've worked with together, Doug, there's a big how they have chosen to define what flow and ease means to them. It's often one whereby they choose it to mean a lack of action. Right? It doesn't have to be that at all. It can still mean that you get shit done. It can still mean that you're very productive. It's simply the energy behind your action that's the difference, whether it's push by pain or pull by pleasure. And in my opinion, we do. I was going to say, in my opinion, if you become content and fulfilled with your life, you will still be driven. You can still be driven. And the reason why I can say that with so much conviction is because you do. You're content and fulfilled with your life, and you're still driven because it's who you are. You love to grow. I'm the same. When you see the men, when they come through the activation method on the other side of it, they are content and fulfilled with their life, and they are still driven. They've just got a completely different rhythm to their life and different balance to their life because they see things differently. One destination, two paths. They've chosen to get off the average path and move across to the new way, the way that suits them better. It does mean forging ahead and kind of sticking two fingers up at the hustle, if you will, or redefining what the hustle means to them. I think that's the key thing, redefining what it means to them. But to have, linking this back to the initial point, to hear men thinking about coming into the activation method and have this be one of the common fears that that our sales team overcome with them, it's profound. It's really profound to hear this come up time and time and time again. And what I personally, and I'll speak for you too, Doug, we want you to know that if you become content and fulfilled with your life, you can still have the drive. You will still have the drive if you want to have it. It's as simple as that. It's so simple as well when we choose to let it be simple. Will the drive be there? Well, do you want it to be there?
Hey guys, I wanted to interrupt this episode because I wanted to talk to you about how almost 300 men are already taking control of their lives. They're 4Xing their business revenues and they're having more connected, intimate sex using the activation method, all without sacrificing their relationships or their health. Now, this is only an 11-minute case study we put together just based on all the feedback we've gotten from you listeners. To get the case study, all you have to do is go over to thepowerfulman.com/number 11. So that's thepowerfulman.com/11. And you can get that case study right now. It's short, it's right to the point, and it's going to give you actionable points that you can take right today. All right, let's get back to the episode. You think about this, and my personal experience, and I'll just share that with everybody, and a couple other analogies is, when I was in hustle mode, I was grinding it out. I'd get done with the work and then I would have to have a couple cocktails to calm down, wake up in the morning, slam coffee, back at it. I wasn't living. I lived by the beach, but I didn't step foot on the sand. I knew the beach was there and I could see people going to the beach to have fun, but I was hustling, right? Because I was in fear. Now, when I broke that cycle, right? And I broke that cycle through a lot of tools. And when I broke that cycle and I was able to become successful without that fear driving me. What happened for me was more things opened up, which made me want to do more. I was driven by so much more energy, purpose. When you think about things that you want to do, right now, everybody think about doing your taxes, filling out tax forms. Everybody gets tired. I've never met one person, including accountants who are friends of mine who specialize in this, that don't go, oh man, I got to do my taxes. I got to fill out these forms or driving forms, whatever it may be, right? It's the same idea. It's an energy sap. Fear is an energy sap. Being pulled away from fear, you're going to have more energy. I can tell you, you'll be more vibrant. You'll be working with so much more clarity. Your eyes wide open in such a bigger way, that you'll actually want to do the things that you're doing. You'll actually be driven by purpose, and that opens you up to more possibilities, which for me in the marketplace, right? In the marketplace, the big things are marketing and innovation, right? If you look at any business, marketing and innovation drive a company. Now, what does innovation come from? Innovation comes from new ideas. You don't get new ideas from a state of fear. You get them from a state of openness. And that's what a lot of these men typically see. Once they remove the fear, the drive doesn't go away. In fact, a lot of times it increases quite a bit. Now they may pivot, but now all of a sudden what was previously impossible becomes possible. And that's a huge difference that most people aren't seeing.
Yeah, it's huge. It's absolutely huge. Being able to become aware of where you're operating from first and foremost, and then have the tools to choose something different and change it is everything, isn't it? Because what happens if you don't? What happens if you choose to not take control of your life in that way? What do? Do you just continue to be a victim to the journey? Do you just continue to tell yourself that, that's just the way it is? Well, no. It's the way you're choosing it to be, the way you're letting it be.
You become average. Average sucks. Nobody listening to this wants to be average, right? And none of the men that are either coming through the program or apply and don't make it, none of them want to be average. Nobody does. But many of them are too afraid to step into their greatness. Now, we talk about, and you said it earlier, and two paths, right? There's two paths along the trail to success, to your Shangri-La, so to speak. Path one is hustle, right? You're hustling your butt off. You're trying to fill your life with cars, with women, with drugs, alcohol, sedation, all these things that don't get you there. You keep self-destructing. And then you see on the other path, the lucky guy, right, that we talk about, who doesn't really talk about it, but it seems to happen easy to him. And the truth is, he's not lucky. He just figured it out. And part of that is stepping into your fears, stepping into them and not being actually pulled or pushed by fear, but being pulled by your destiny. And that's why when we look at these two paths, and Tim, you do an excellent, diagram of these, and we should get that out so the listeners can see. But on these paths, the lucky guy, what we call the lucky guy, or a lot of us do, really what that person has done is put in the work on their own mental fortitude, right? They are the king within inside themselves. And they are pulling forward in a way towards their purpose, towards success. And what happens when you eliminate that fear, the drive doesn't go away, the self-destruction does. And it allows you to keep stepping forward. It no longer becomes 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. That's what a lot of us have experienced, right? I know I have. I've done that in business. I did that so much in my early 20s. Now it becomes 1 step forward, 2 steps forward, 3 steps forward, 1 step forward, etc. But you're moving forward out of passion, purpose, and out of love. And I tell you right now, it is such a better way of living. And take this from someone who's done both. I can tell you, it's like they say, I've been rich and I've been poor. Being rich is better. I just can tell you that right now. I'll deal with those problems any day.
Yeah, you say it so well. So Doug, what's one thing the listeners can take away from this and do immediately to help get off that path of hustle and onto the better path?
I think the first thing to do right here is be honest with yourself and identify your fear, right? So identify that pain. Well, the pain is driving me. Why is it driving you? What is that story that you've created about this pain or about this fear that it's going to drive you? And I want you to write it down. Write it down like you're writing a novel, right? It should be at least 2 pages, probably more. And when you're looking at this, what I want you to do is look at that story, and I'm kind of giving you the punchline ahead of time. We've talked about this before, but it's the same exercise, is highlight the undeniable facts of that story. I mean, if lawyers are sitting there, you're in front of, the United States, the Supreme Court or whatever, what are the undeniable facts that nobody could deny? And highlight those. And my guess is you're going to end up with 2 or 3 lines of the facts. The rest of that is some BS story that's pulling you down, causing you to not get to your dreams. It's going to keep you away from what you truly want. You deserve to be happy. You deserve to be great. You were born that way. That is your destiny. And if you are feeling at all average and not great at all, this is time to step up and make a change. Make that change. Reach out to myself, to Tim, to anybody on our team. We'll be happy to point you in the right direction. I will be perfectly honest with you. Most people are not a good fit for our program. We don't accept everybody. This is an elite group, but we're happy to point you in a direction that might be good for you. So take that first step. If you aren't willing to take the first step and do the work and the exercise that we just gave you, then enjoy average.
Well, yeah, what can I say? It's completely true. It's the reality. Awesome. Well, Doug, I have loved this conversation. So many great points. I just love being in this conversation with you. I know we often speak about it a lot and teach it a lot, and we live it a lot as well, but it's always so fascinating to hear what is going on in the minds of the men as they're looking to join the program, and then discussing it with the rest of the listeners. It's phenomenal. So thank you so much for being on here with me and sharing your wisdom with these guys. It's profound.
Thank you, man. Enjoy your trip. You're having a great time and you are living the powerful man lifestyle. I think that's important for people that are listening to this that probably don't know you as well as I do, is as I say it, we eat our own cooking, right? We actually do the things that we talk about, and you're traveling in the countryside with your beautiful lady. So enjoy your time. Thanks for taking the time to spread this message to a lot of men. We're getting great feedback from the listeners. And you listeners, let us know what you think and topics that you'd like us to cover. We're doing this for you. So until next time, have an amazing week. And don't be average. Be great. Talk to you guys later.